Well, welcome back, everyone. Um, Once again, finally managed to get this together. I'm glad. But hello, everyone. Britton here, also known as Samoki Dude. I'm here with Joe Byrne. How you doing, Joe?
I'm good, Britton. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, we're talking about the second book of the Hybrid Helix series. Turn 2 is what it says on
Turn
this
two.
book. Called Return of the Griffin, which this is I guess
Edition cover.
that's the old cover, I think,
First
because
edition cover. Very
because
exciting.
because Joe decided to rewrite it, you bastard.
I
But
did.
apparently, you said the story's the same. There's just some stuff taken out. So I'm like, okay, we can still have this
Almost entire.
conversation.
The broad strokes are entirely the same. Almost entirely. Almost entirely.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I've noticed. This is probably gonna sound really stupid, but I've noticed a pattern these last couple these three books. I'm like, there's the prologue where you get thrown into it, and then we get led to it, then we see what happens, and yada yada.
I
So
stopped doing that in book 4. I like the structure, but people complained so much. I got so tired of it.
I mean, it wasn't bad. I was just kind of noticed. I'm like, huh, this is happening a lot.
It was really useful in Wistful Ascending because it has kind of the book has kind of a slow start, and I
Uh
really
huh.
believe you want to set the tone and make what Brandon Sanderson calls your promises, right? Like tell the reader what the book is going to be like early. You don't want to start off in like a mystery and then have it turn into like a space opera halfway through. You want to set it and
It's a
stick
good
to your
storytelling trick. I mean, what's it
yeah,
called? In media res, I think.
yeah,
I
yeah.
butchered that
Uh,
probably.
that's more generally just when you start in the middle of the action, but starting, I don't know
Oh.
if there's a word for starting at the end, but that's what I
Oh.
did. But the thing is, what it does is it gives you a feel right away. You know what kind of book you're in for. You're in for people with superpowers punching each other in space, right? Like, and if I just started with like chapter 1, you wouldn't have gotten that for like 10 chapters.
Well,
So
oh,
yeah,
sorry.
I
Yeah.
liked it. But you
Um,
didn't need it by book 4. By book 4, I'm like, at this point, you know what the genre is. Like, I feel like you don't have to make the same. You don't have to do the same things in the first chapter anymore, because the reader presumably has read 3 books. It's not the beginning. So yeah, I abandoned that structure, and I haven't used it since. And I don't use it in partial function. Partial function just very linear timeline.
fair enough.
Yep.
I So what happened was, I read Blood Reunion about
Okay.
late February, start of the month, and I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't talked with Joe about Return of the Griffin, so I better get him on for that, and because I was gonna do it, and it just didn't come together, as a lot
We're
of
all
things as it happens on book two, which I
yeah.
know it's horrible. But
Uh,
I'm like, well, Joe, I feel if the story structure and all that's the same, I guess it's a good idea to talk about Return of the Griffin.
sure.
So I actually listened to
Happy to.
your summary of Return of the Griffin. To
Oh yeah. Oh, I got to
what
redo that.
what's the term?
The recap video.
Well, yeah, the recap video, but to refresh myself. That's it.
Oh, I forgot I did that. Yeah, I never did that for book 4 or 5.
I was just gonna watch a couple reviews because I remembered a lot of what happened, but I was kind of like, I'll watch this because Joe has so generously gifted it to the world.
It's interesting because I always wonder what people will get out of those videos after reading the book, because I feel like people don't always get all the details out of the book that I think are important.
Uh
So
huh.
it's like, well, so I often wonder how many people, if they watch those videos, even right after reading it, be like, oh, I didn't catch that one thing, or I didn't realize that was important. But Joe mentioned I haven't gotten a ton of feedback on it, which is fine.
So in this one, our main man Rohan, that guy right there, he
Okay.
goes back to Earth, relives some bad memories, goes up against some mega, possibly brainwashed sharks. Trying to. It's kind of the spoiler free session here. I'm doing a really terrible job at it, but anyway. He fights some sharks. They're very
That's
hard sharks. This isn't a joke. The sharks are actually really tough. Now, while you
I feel
guys,
like I say that all the time. People are like, "Oh, giant sharks," so it's funny, right? I'm like, it's not funny. Like the sharks are not. Like,
yeah,
there
they're
might be
really
funny stuff
hard.
in there, but they're not really meant to be like a joke. The sharks aren't, right?
There's even some Lovecraftian horror in this, which I'm like, wasn't expecting that, but okay, there we go. which carries on in the third book.
Yeah, the Lovecraftian stuff is mentioned extremely briefly in book one, but like it's like a one sentence kind of thing,
Oh,
and I don't think anyone gets it. Yeah,
I didn't catch that. I caught
no
it
one
in this
does,
though.
which is fine. Yeah. But and as the books go on, it becomes a bigger and bigger theme because you need a big bad.
So yeah, this one's a one if you're like interested in like a more, I guess, traditional superhero story, for lack of a better word, because Rohan goes to Earth, punches things in the face. There's the super team, and we also get to see a little more of where Rohan came from. So that's always fun.
It's definitely more of a homage to Marvel as opposed to like Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
Right? Like or Invincible. It's more of an homage even to Invincible than it is than it is to other properties. I tried to get that superhero team feeling, which some people like, some people didn't like, but that whole like the Avengers. There's a lot of characters around. Everywhere you turn, you're tripping over.
The whole gang's together. Yeah.
Whole gang's together. Yeah.
There's even a Hulk character who's literally called the Green, which I when I saw that I shut the book and I just laid down and had a gigantic smile on my face. I'm like, that's
he has no pants.
I'm like, that's great.
Everyone's upset about his lack of pants. There's a lot of like little in jokes.
I kind of thought he was, because you kind of describe him as like a tree, like a little bit, and I'm like, so is this like a Swamp Thing send up? And then you're like, oh, he gets really angry and then he turns back sometimes. I'm like, okay, that's the Hulk. But you mentioned he kind of looks like a tree, so I just thought that was great.
Very much a Hulk send up. Very much a Hulk send up. Yeah.
Or facsimile or XB or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so if you like stuff like Invincible or the Avengers, something in that range, give it a shot. I know there were some people who were kind of like, oh, but he's not on the space station. I enjoyed Return to the Griffin personally, so
Thank you.
There you go.
I'm glad.
And as I like to do when I do indie books, I like to at least get the author on, maybe pick their brain a little bit about what was going through their minds when they were writing this literature, if you will.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember what I was thinking, right? I mean, part of it was,
or I guess what you were intending when you were, I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels more comfortable to me than just going like, this was pretty good. It's got it's got some mega sharks with legs. Yeah. Read it. It's pretty fun.
The big thing I wanted to do was book one didn't really have a straightforward plot. It wasn't like, like this bad guy's coming and we have to like, get the ring to the volcano, right? We don't have this like one.
It's kind of like a character study of Rohan as he gets to some shenanigans.
Everything's connected, right? The Ursans show up, refugee ship comes, everything that happens after that is connected to that, and that it's caused by it. But most of it has nothing to do with the Ursans specifically. And again, you can't describe it as Rohan, has to defeat a team of villains, right? That's not really what the book's about. It's about a lot of little things that happen as a result.
I remember thinking about Wistful Ascending. I'm like, yeah, is that really like a single like plot going on? It's just kind of everyday. Which it makes sense. I mean, Wistful Ascending's the book that introduces the world. So I mean, you can get away with that. But I kind of was thinking about it,
and everything is really connected to the Ursans landing. Like him meeting Tamara she only knows who he is because he fought Aang in the shuttle bay. Like everything is connected. Like that's why the researchers come expose his identity because they're looking at the wormhole, right? It's all about the wormhole.
I was sad about the lack of Ursans though.
Everyone is. They're like that. Aang appears briefly in like chapter 1 or 2.
Yeah. That's right. When they
it's not much.
Isn't that when they first meet? When she goes like, "Hey Rohan, we need to." Well, we want in Hyperion, but he's dead, which was established in book 1. So
he's coming back from saving the Darkness Follows after she was crashed onto Talk 3.
That's right.
Darkness Follows it was probably everyone's favorite character from that book, which is fine. I actually brought Darkness Follows back into book 7, but not in an important way, just as a side character. Because I'm like, she's there, might as well keep her and use her again. But but I wanted book 2 to have more of a standard like plot, right? Sharks invade the Earth. Rowan's got to stop the invasion or save the Earth. Save the Earth, right? That's a story. And that's a
Because
fight. You can
Rohan,
sum that up.
despite his relaxed, good-natured personality, is actually kind of a badass.
Yeah.
And he's called a problem solver, which he even says in book 3, but I'm trying to stick with book 2 here.
It says in book 1 also.
It is also in book 1 too. He's basically like, if they had problems, they came to me, and I'm like, oh shit, he's gonna throw down.
Yeah.
So
Throw down.
So yeah, again, despite the self-deprecating humor and good-naturedness, I guess, if you want to call it that, he's actually like your standard Goku Spike Spiegel. He will throw down.
That was always the goal with the series, right? Like I love those moments in the like one of my favorite things in like in any like action story, movies, comics, whatever, is like the moment when like John Wick, when someone's like, you stole John Wick's car, and like the mob boss is like terrified.
Yeah, Theon's
right?
like, yeah, and he's like, we're fucked.
yeah, we are fucked, right? And I love those moments, this sort of you know, mild mannered person, and you realize, oh no, he's Superman. Like you just ticked off the wrong guy,
Mm-hmm.
And I love those. So like, I'm gonna put them in the So Rohan is the problem is if you have a character like that, right? They have to be reluctant. Because if they're not reluctant, then they're just a bully.
Yeah, no, Rohan kind of has to confront the past a little bit, but again, don't want to get ahead of myself. So after the absolute banger of an ending of book 1, I was like, oh man, where's Rohan gonna go next? How's this gonna play out? We haven't seen it just yet, but he has to go to Earth though, because they weren't initially looking for him because, well, Rohan, admittedly not very well liked on Earth for, reasons, which we'll get into. But he's like, oh yeah, Hyperion's dead. Sorry, guys. And they're like, oh, well, we'll take you. And he's like, are you sure?
They don't want to. I mean, they keep saying like, I don't know. And he's like, no, you.
It was Rohan's idea, wasn't it? Because Rohan's like, yeah, I guess I'll go. And she's like, what? For real?
But I like this idea that he's kind of a badass, but I like the idea that maybe he wasn't 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like he left Earth, and I've established he didn't really communicate with them. They don't really know him on Earth they know him as a 19-year-old. Nothing against 19-year-olds, but he was not hyper competent at 19. He didn't have his act together. He became a sort of a scary dude later. I mean, he was always scared. He had superpowers, right? I mean, by normal human standards, scary dude. But he became competent later, and he said that. So I'm like, so they don't remember him that way, and I like that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Of him, sort of going home and being like, no, actually, I'm grown up.
Yeah, he did some things he wasn't proud of back on Earth, and he's kind of facing it now, even though he's dealing with the sharks, which, by the way, there's these megadon sharks with legs running around and tearing shit up, and while you suppress your Snickers, you end up realizing, holy crap, this is a real deal. Like, they're not playing.
They're not playing, yeah.
If I recall right, they like leveled the eastern seaboard or something in America. If I'm probably I think I'm getting mixed up with Invincible.
Like Asia, eastern coast of like Asia, like wrecked it.
Yeah, that's right.
And then some of the west coast. They're all in the Pacific, which I think I only did because I wanted like a wink and a nod to Pacific Rim.
Oh,
because I mean the storyline is a lot. I mean, I took a lot of elements from Pacific Rim in terms of they're coming through these like portals under the ocean. That's Pacific Rim. That's where the monsters come from in that movie. There's no giant robot. There's a giant robot that fights them, but it's not on page. The kaiju force. No. Otaku Force 5, something like that.
Yeah.
They were a giant robot, right? The pilots of a giant robot, which we never see on the page. They're dead in the movie.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, didn't they die? Like,
yeah, they're dead.
yeah.
I had a lot of characters where I'm like, I made them up, gave them
Yeah, I'm like,
backstory, and they're like, well, what about that guy? He could help. I'm like, no, he's dead. And it's like, okay. But
yeah, I was
you
about to
know,
say, before you snicker, these sharks are a big deal. Like, they're not playing. Like, they level, like, part of Asia. Again, like,
they're kaiju. They're like Godzilla.
they're
Right?
kaiju, yeah, pretty
Each one
much.
is 150 meters long and like 10,000 tons. I did the math on the back of the end, back of a napkin kind of calculations to try to figure out what they'd weigh if they were roughly like a megalodon, but much longer.
Yeah,
yeah,
no, it's but yeah, that's kind of the plot setup. Which again,
yeah.
if you haven't read this, read this. Maybe get the new version that Joe put out. This is the old version. But read this and then come back and watch this video because we're gonna spoil the crap out of this.
We are.
So there we go. But yeah, that's kind of the setup. Oh yeah, and he also meets up with the CEO of Hyperion Industries, who's also his mother. Which was hilarious because I'm like, yo, that's his mom. That has to be his mom.
Did you?
Because like,
Good.
I've had interactions with my mom like that where I'll see her and I'll be like, oh god, and then like I'll go somewhere and I don't tell her about it. She'll be like, Brenton, where'd you go? That kind of, it was like that. And she does the old like she slaps him in the face and it's like, where the hell have you been? You haven't called in like 10 years? Like straight up like Italian mom. It was great.
It's a Desi mom. It's very Indian
Desi
mom. Very Indian mom. She
gives him a nice smack in the face if I remember and goes, where have you been? You haven't called in like 10 years.
I've had South Asians and Telugu people specifically say she's really like, how'd you know our culture so well? And I'm like, all moms, first of all, a lot of moms are like that. You don't own that character set, right? That's what moms are often like. And second of all, like I watch a lot of movies.
We also meet his ex-girlfriend, and I really liked their camaraderie there, I was kind of like, yeah, okay. I can see how they got together for a while. But, they've kind of moved
tricky,
on.
right?
They're at different parts in their lives,
You want to give them chemistry, but also like people who are in their early 30s who were dated in high school, like you're not the same person anymore.
Yeah.
Usually. I mean, sometimes people get back. I mean, I'm my wife is someone I knew in high school. We didn't actually date in high school, but I knew her. But like usually like people grow and they grow apart and 10 years is a lot.
But the spark is still there, but he's still kind of like sad about his ex-girlfriend from the last book. And
I wanted to do kind of a romantic thread in every book.
There was some tension there.
There was a little tension. They hook up. There was some tension. They do hook up after
that's right. Yeah.
I mean, nothing that's going to last, clearly, but they get to. It's one of those classic, you can't come back to space with me, sweetheart. So they can't stay together, right? That's the hero goes back to war. He's not going back to war. He's going back to a peaceful life on but it's a space station, and she's got business on Earth. So
he's like, I got a good gig going at Wistful, but again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah. But yeah, so Rohan returns to Earth, reunites with his mom. Because I was wondering, I'm like, so yeah, when's his mom coming in? And then I met the CEO. I'm like, yo, that's his mom. That has to be.
I feel like not everyone figures it out, but a lot of people do, but not everyone. I didn't try to make
it. It's not like a bad, like, oh man, that was so predictable. But it was more like, this is fun. I'm having fun with it.
Good.
I think Joe's having fun with it too. At least I think so.
Oh yeah.
You can just be like, oh, of course I was.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like his mom gives him the old, where the hell have you been? It's been 10 damn years. You didn't call. You didn't do shit.
Didn't call. You didn't write.
He's like, I'm sorry. All right, I was busy. I was fighting a war.
And then my favorite jokes are all like, we're gonna get you married now. You're here. We gotta get you married.
Yeah, and she's like, how's your dad? He's like, I don't know. I haven't seen him.
No one wants to hear from him.
Or no, doesn't she go like, he's like, maybe it was actually like he goes like, oh, you ever wonder how dad's doing? And she's like, hell no, dude's an asshole.
Yeah.
She has a girlfriend, which is pretty cool.
I'm trying to convey that he had sort of a mildly traumatic upbringing. He was,
Oh,
not raised in the healthiest of ways. I mean, he's raised to be a child soldier, but I don't want to get like grim and descriptive about it. You want to just hint, leave it to your
yeah, but
imagination.
his mom seems to. I mean, aside from her being mad at him for basically ghosting
Well,
everyone for a decade now.
yeah,
Um,
she's the good one.
yeah, she's the good parent, I
She's the
think,
good
because
parent.
good lord, blood reunion. Well, I'll save it for the blood reunion chat, and I'll interrogate you about that. But it's just like,
Just want to say up front, these are not modeled after my parents.
no, that's good.
Yeah, it's nothing to
Oh,
nothing.
so you weren't a space warrior? Oh, that's
Well, just like,
unfortunate.
but I mean, also the dynamic between me and my. Sometimes people write and they put the same dynamic as from their own families, even if the details are different. This is not that. I just want anyone to think that my dad was like, similar, or my mom was some. It's not where that came from.
Yeah, I'm a similar way. For some reason, I love writing about dysfunctional families. My
Well,
family's
it's a
fine, my parents I get along with my parents. They get along with each other, but I don't know. I like writing about dysfunctional families for whatever reason.
because it's easier because it gives your main character like a reason to go out and do something like fight off and because if you're really like sort of have a good healthy easy upbringing, you tend to just like get a job and like be happy and like raise your family
Yeah,
and
like Superman,
you know,
just like
yeah,
yeah,
you don't go out and do things like fight villains and explore other. I mean, some people do, but generally you have to be a little bit
save cats
broken to
from
want to.
trees, all that fun stuff.
Generally, you have to be a little broken to really want to be like conquer the world, or
Uh,
whatever. Not always, but I think a lot. It's easy to have somebody a little bit broken home,
but Earth
broken from
is actually a
childhood.
pretty sweet deal. So like everyone has like, how would I describe it? It's like a utopia over there now. Well, I mean, there's still problems, but like, there's like healthcare for everybody, and Hyperion kind of runs everything a little bit, if I recall right. Again, I'm going off of what I remember from the book.
Part of the backstory is Hyperion agreed to leave. I mean, because I had to say, oh, Rohan was away from Earth. He's been gone. Why? The idea is that they left, and in return for them, like sort of signing up with the Empire, Earth got a bunch of advanced technology, and then so like everybody's just like things are just everyone has just more stuff, right? Everyone's much richer because they have
Mm-hmm.
these. When you have this influx of technology, they can just really like just like self-replicating solar panels. You
Yeah,
put a big thing in the desert, and all of a sudden you basically have almost unlimited, almost free energy for everybody. And like once you have that, you can do all kinds of stuff. Like water's not a problem. You can just build a desalination plant if energy's free, right? Like go to a place like Iceland and you see what it's like when energy's practically free. It completely changes everything. So
so
I just
would
threw
would
that
you
in
say
there.
it's like a post scarcity society, or is it like,
The Earth is not, but it's on its way.
oh, okay.
The rest of the galaxy, I mean, the rest of the sector is. They do not have all of the advanced technology, but most of the sector is basically a post scarcity society. Wistful is. No one's
Yeah,
hungry. Wistful, I was I did a talk with Raph Blue
yeah, I was
Text
gonna
about this.
ask you about that because I saw in Raph's video, or Raph's conversation with you, he was talking about like a socialist utopia. So I'm like,
This is a
is this
social
like
utopia.
is it like a post scarcity or something? Like, because I don't know.
It is, but it's reflecting like my beliefs about how people are in a post scarcity economy. Most people work. They may not work 100 hours a week, but they work and they do stuff and they open restaurants and they you know translate manga and they do stuff because I think people do. I think it's a political argument. You can get into it, but what happens when people have enough stuff? They don't just sit on their couch and like watch TV all day. I mean, some people do, but most people don't. Most
I
people
would
get
probably
bored
be
of
one of
that.
those people sitting on his couch,
I,
just chilling in my
I
house.
don't. I don't think you are. I don't know if you would work. I mean, I know, like, okay, if I had like everything, if all my material needs are satisfied, and somehow I was guaranteed they would be for all of time, I wouldn't just like sit on my couch all day and like get stoned. I
Wouldn't
mean,
be like
I might.
Wall-E, where they all get like fat. I don't know if you've seen
Yeah,
Wall-E.
but I don't think most people. I'm sure everyone I know would do that for a while, right? Like,
But then they get
anyone
like
my age,
restless, like, yeah, we gotta do something.
you'd spend a month just getting high and like sitting on your couch, right, or whatever. Well, maybe not getting high, but doing the equivalent, right? But I think most people would want to do something, explore, travel, work. I think most people would rather work a little bit than not work at all. They just would rather. Most would rather work 20 hours than zero. They'd also rather work 20 than 40. So that's my belief, and I put it in the books.
Yeah, it's so it's a pre post scarcity society. So pre scarcity, I guess. If that probably doesn't make any sense, I'm sorry, but
But less scarce. It's a less scarcity
less
society.
scarcity society. Okay, there we go.
Less than we have. I just
We got people running businesses, and Rohan's mom runs everything. If I recall right, no one either. It's a
so
kept secret aside from a
she
couple
runs
people.
she runs the company that controls the alien technology.
Uh huh.
So they're the ones who have like the carbon the fabricating machines that just take carbon out of the air and use it to make stuff like carbon, just synthesize it out of carbon from the air. The anti-gravity technology, all that. She runs. She's extremely rich, and they basically built a city in the middle of the desert and just said, "We're gonna this is where everything's gonna be made." And and then there's still other countries where they have their own rules and stuff. And she also funds all the superhero teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she's like Tony Stark.
No, I'm. What I was meaning to say is that like it's not widely known that that's his mom, if I recall right.
You're exactly right.
Except for a couple people.
Almost no one knows that they're related. Like Bright Angel, I think, and I don't know that I've explicitly stated that no one else knows, but very few people know that they're related. But she was picked because Hyperion knew who she was and knew that she had experience dealing with the Empire because she was married to one of these aliens. So she's sort of uniquely qualified to understand that these guys are dangerous and ruthless and psychotic.
Oh God!
Yeah. So that's why he left everything to her, which I like. That was a good. It's not super critical to anything else, but
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, they're kind of like the Super Saiyan Viltrumites of this world. If any of you are familiar with.
The difference being the Viltrumites are super powerful. The Ildrak themselves are not. It's only their kids.
Oh.
So it's a little. So that's the twist, right? On their own, they're not as dangerous. So they're not quite Kryptonians, right? It's a little different. But they run everything and they control the galaxy with a ruthless fist or whatever. And so they're not. We have lots of stories of them causing genocides for unknown reasons, and the reasons become
which bites Rohan in the ass a couple times, but
yeah.
I think it even bites him in this book too at one point. Or actually, no, never mind. Continuing on, but yeah, this is basically more of a and again, I'm not trying to say this is bad or nothing, but it's more of a traditional superhero story in this one.
100% agree.
So basically, if you like your superhero stuff, like punching things and witty banter and all that fun stuff, Return of the Griffin's got that in spades. All that fun stuff.
That was the plan.
And also we see Rohan again, kind of facing the past, because when you're a young kid and you have superpowers and you're not really sure how to control them, and you have all those weird growing up stuff you're doing, it kind of makes you make some really stupid decisions. And we end up learning about some of those dumb decisions that Rohan made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's established that that's the cost of his power, right? The hybrids go into a berserker rage, which is a very common sort of side effect in comics. And I mean, Superman doesn't, but the Hulk, right? Super Saiyans often go into berserker. The Viltrumites do it, right? It's an easy price to pay for the They lose control and go into berserker rage.
Now,
and power.
Rohan is more disciplined now, but, when you're a teenager, you're definitely not.
Well, that's the idea, right? He's more or less, but he loses control. He loses control in book 1, right?
Yeah.
Chapter 32 or whatever it is.
And then when he massacres all the other Ursans, or is that
no, he commits outright war crimes and massacres a whole bunch of people who are trying to surrender him, desperately trying to surrender, and he murders them, right? So like,
which that's a war crime.
Yeah, I always think it's funny because people are like, "Oh, it's like a cozy book," and I'm like, it's not entirely.
So he violates a bunch of international laws in this.
And Wistful's just like, hey, those laws don't apply here. It's cool. It's like, okay.
No, so yeah, he comes back to Earth, and it's basically kind of an awkward sitcom for a minute there because, he hasn't seen all these people in a while, and then the mega sharks come back, and they're basically like, these sharks keep popping up, and we don't know where they're coming from, and they're pretty dangerous. Which, I don't remember if anyone points out the absurdity of the sharks in this, because I think they do, but I don't remember.
Before he leaves, they're looking at them like, "I can't. This is ridiculous. You're kidding, right?"
Oh yeah,
There's
that's
a lot
right.
of that going on, like on Wistful, because the Ben and Marion are gonna go and try to help, and they're looking at the picture on Amber's phone. It's like, this is a joke, right? She's like, it's really not. I'm not laughing. No one here is laughing.
But it turns out these sharks are extremely dangerous because they're basically, they got really tough skin, and they're really angry, and they just tear shit up, and it's really bad for everyone involved.
They just tear shit up,
and and everyone on Earth is just going crazy trying to figure out how to stop this.
Yeah.
And Rohan's like, well, I guess I'll have to pop in and help out. And everyone's like, okay, we'll deal with you. Hyperion's dead. And yeah, it's kind of a running gag. They're like, well, what happened to Hyperion? I'm like, he's dead. It's fine. But me, I'm here. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is going to go badly.
I do not remember where, because the Hyperion being like the toughest hero around and like being dead, that was well established in Wistful Ascending, and I do not.
Yeah, I remember that, but like, not everyone on Earth knows that, and that's kind of like a running gag in the book.
Oh, no one knows. Yeah, no one knows, and I don't remember why I did that. I really don't. I'm kind of curious. I'll never know because I didn't write down like why I had that idea.
Yeah, and it's just
worked out in a lot of ways.
To be fair though, it would probably be a lot easier if Hyperion was alive, but I'm not gonna,
Let's wait till book 4.
Uh-oh. But, so, they end up battling a shark, because I think a shark pops up, like, not too long after Rohan shows up. He gets, like, one of those, like, dramatic phone calls, and they're like, it's here. And he's like, oh my god, really? So,
well, when he gets to Earth, there's one that has already been fighting the Green.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They finished that one off. It's the first thing they do. He's like, gotta get rid of this thing. And then, and of course, the U.S. military is like, we don't want him to because they're afraid of the Green, which is very much something I stole from early Hulk stories. Because like a lot of early Hulk stories were like the Hulk is in the desert and the U.S. Army is like trying to surround him and like pen him in and like not let, and they see him as a threat. And it's a lot of the really early Hulk. I read them in reprints. I wasn't around when the early Hulk issues were released.
Yeah.
I'm only 54. But I read them in reprints when I was really young, and that was a big plot line early on. The Hulk was almost more of a horror comic for a while, where he was the monster and the military was trying to stop him.
Yeah, and then like Immortal Hulk brought that back a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's been through it. Yeah, absolutely.
No,
but he wasn't like fighting supervillains in the early issues of like the Hulk magazine. That wasn't what was happening.
They're like, the Green puts up a pretty good fight against the shark.
Yeah.
I think he actually, if I remember, he either seriously wounds the shark or he ends up finally killing the shark.
They're in a stalemate.
Yeah.
But then Rohan and company come and finish it off.
Yeah.
So between them all. And Kid Lightning, my favorite character in the whole thing.
Kid Lightning. He's the one who keeps saying his name, right? The one who
He can't say anything else. He's damaged the
his
speech centers.
his brain got fried.
He's fried his own brain with his own electrical powers. I don't know why I came up with that idea, but he's like Groot. He's like Groot and Thor had a baby.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, that's Kid Lightning. He's like, oh, what happened to him? He's like, he overloaded on the power, so he can only say Kid and Lightning.
I really want to write like a side novel about Kid Lightning, like running like a diner, like retired, and like having like a romance with his speech therapist who's trying to teach him how to talk again. And all he says is Kid Lightning, but he's like working behind the counter at like a greasy diner in Staten Island.
I think I remember asking you when I was reading the book. I'm like, so he can't like write anything, like what he wants to communicate, and you were like, no,
not even. Yeah, like the communication centers of his brain, the ability to convey information, have been fried. I don't know if that's physiologically possible, but it sounded cool to me. I think I needed it for the plot. I wanted him to not be able to really like write things down. I wanted him to be like unable to really communicate. So, because he needs to later on. I need it for the plot. So it's like, okay, this sounds cool. This sounds almost plausible.
they take down the shark, and then they go back to plan it out. And he's like, well, that really sucked. Let's try not to repeat that. And they're like, well, we don't know how to beat these things without leveling half the country, so we're gonna need to plan things out.
Yeah.
So they try to figure out where the sharks are coming from, which is kind of, I think that's where we meet Poseidon. One of the gods is dead, if I remember right. I think it's Ares. If I remember right.
Yep. Ares is dead when they get back. He was killed fighting. I think I said fighting Shark 3, which is the one that's still alive when they land. So Ares is dead, and Poseidon is the last of the gods that they really talk about.
Yeah, it's like, we need to get Poseidon, and they're like, where is Poseidon? And we're like, we don't freaking know where he's at.
He's drunk somewhere.
Yeah, they're thinking he's probably drunk somewhere.
He's partying.
And then it turns out that Bright Angel had a thing with Ares for a little while, but I mean, that's not really important, but I thought that was kind of funny, where Ron's like, oh, okay. He's like, it was fine. It wasn't like a romance or nothing. It was just kind of fooling around.
He's built like a Greek god.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like, well, what can I say? And he's like, yeah, all right, fair enough. I won't hold it against you.
Well, I mean, I didn't want her to be the character's been pining after him for 12 years.
Yeah.
It's clear that that's not what's going on here. She's moved on, She's like, said you left, but, I've been okay.
Yeah.
Because otherwise she's kind of pathetic, And I never wanted that.
If things weren't already stressful enough, this former, or is she currently still a supervillain, or is it a former supervillain? Doesn't matter. She's called Sister Steel, and she's pretty pissed about Rohan, because Rohan, back when he was, a young, angry kid, not really sure how to use his power, he was trying to foil a robbery by this guy called Brother Steel, ended up paralyzing him. And he was so broken up about the whole thing, he ended up taking his own life. And that's where the whole emotional core comes in, where you're like, ouch. So that's why he didn't want to come back to Earth. Ugh.
Yeah, that was part of it. Yeah. I mean, it's a story about redemption, so what do you need redemption for? I mean, in the first book, we've established that he did a lot of bad things when working for the Empire. That doesn't come out of nowhere. And now it's like, well, what would his childhood have been like? Well, he probably would have been a very tough teenager. And everyone's wary of him early on. Like, like no one's like, oh, you seem like, thank God you're back. Just hugs all around. Everyone's like
Bright Angel's the only one who's like kind of happy to see him again.
Even she gives him a lot of sass.
Yeah.
Like,
his mom's happy to see him, at least.
Yeah.
Kind of. She's also pissed off at him for, not reaching out.
Yeah. But no one's like, oh, thank God you're here now, we're saved.
Yeah.
No,
they were going to do that with Hyperion, but...
They would have. But they would have. And I tried to convey that. Like, if Hyperion had showed up, they would have been like, oh, good. Now we're good. Everyone would like breathe a sigh of relief. But Rohan are not. They're like, is this just another problem?
And Rohan, of course, is like... caught in that awkward situation when you get publicly called out. You're just kind of like, what can I say, guys? I was a kid. I needed the money, Not really. He didn't say that. But he's also like, But he is like, man, when you got superpowers, shit's gonna go wrong. And then later on, he's all like, yeah, but still wasn't right though. So I'm sorry about that.
That's the journey. It's not much of a journey.
You know what I'll do? And Rohan, of course, goes like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna give myself up. And his mom's just like, don't shut your mouth. And Bright Ange is like, are you for real? And he's like, yeah, I'm down with it. Because Rohan is just the chillest guy on the planet. Like there are times I'm like, Rohan, you should just lay the smack down on some of these people. But he doesn't do that. Now, here, I wouldn't say let the smack down on Sister Steel. She's understandably upset over her. I think that's her brother passing away in such a horrible way. Or maybe they were, I don't know. But she's understandably upset about that. But, like, like last book with those guys trying to, like, blackmail him, I'm like, bro, just smack him up a little bit. Like, it's okay. But he's, it's like, no, I'm turning a new leaf. I don't want to do that no more. It's,
I'm cutting back on the murdering.
Yeah.
Cutting back on the murder.
That's the way to put it.
And that's like, I don't know if you read Rurouni Kenshin.
It's almost like, make it sound like he's trying to like go on a diet or something.
Yeah, just cut back. Just cut back on the murdering. Like he needs like Ozempic for murdering.
Yeah. Just
right?
he needs like the weight loss food for murder.
There's this thing in a I feel like there's been a few characters like this, but like where the deadly assassin is like trying to like get like redemption, so they vow to never kill again. The Rurouni Kenshin's my favorite example, but he can't be the only one. There's got to be others. Like I'll never kill again, right? I'm never, and I always thought that was dumb. Like at some point, like come on, like some people sometimes you have to if you're in these ridiculous situations. Most of us never have to kill anyone in our lives, right? But like if you're in these situations,
yeah, there are sometimes I'm like, look, Rohan, you can like smack him around. You don't have to murder, but like now he'll probably go like, but if I start smacking him around, then I'll get angry, and then some murder's gonna happen. I don't want that. That's fair.
That's a big part in book 3. In book 3, a big part of the storyline is him really not wanting to do any more murdering, but at some point going, well, sometimes you just have to. Mm-hmm. Because the writer put me in a position where I have to.
Yeah. But Rohan might be tough, but these sharks, they're not playing. Like they're tough.
Yeah.
And whoever's sending them, because someone's sending them, because a plot's got to happen.
That's right.
They weren't playing around either, because they're just like, and they're not playing around. And Ron, of course, is like, it's not personal with the sharks. Let's help them. And they're like, what? What's wrong with you? They must have smacked you upside the head when you were at a hill drop or something. Must have dropped you or something.
Okay, like, let's check those pupils. Are your pupils dilating?
Exactly. And he's like, no, man, they're misunderstood. And they're just like, oh my God. But
that's the theme of the series, right? It's understanding over compassion for your enemy.
Over fighting.
Yeah, and with this fighting too. Like there's plenty of shark punching in the book.
There is a lot of shark punching. And again, these sharks are hard. Like it takes like all the team, and like everyone is strapped. Like a lot of superheroes are dead. Like Earth's on their last legs. Even his mom, who's like, the kind of sassy, doesn't take shit from anybody kind of lady, is like, this is looking bad, guys. We might need to do some drastic measures if
Is it time to evacuate the planet? Like that's like,
don't they say like they dropped like 8 nukes on one or something? They dropped like a shitload of nukes, and that finally
they dropped a meteor on one, and they dropped a super nuke on another one. But it was enough to like wipe out coastal areas all around the Pacific.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's right. I'm like, because I keep getting them mixed up with Invincible.
And then Masamune's like, oh, if I made another one of those nukes, it might crack the Earth open. So that's the kind of nuke we're talking.
Yeah, and Rohan's like, well, we don't want that to happen.
Right.
So
I always like the idea that like there are more powerful weapons out there that you just can't use because of the side effects. Like Liz says, like, oh, I've got a cousin in cold storage who could definitely like tear through these sharks. But then he would annihilate all the rest of humanity when he was done. It's like, oh, well, then that's not going to help us.
Yeah, like he
But
fights like
things
this.
are there.
Yeah, that's right. He like fights like this golem thing, trying to find this old tankerer.
Masamune. Masamune is the name of a famous Japanese swordsmith who's in a lot of manga as like the guy who makes like the cursed sword that the hero uses. So the name is like very that's straight out of. I think it was a real person too. Not 100% sure.
So isn't that like the main character of Vagabond, or is that someone else?
Musashi.
Fusashi. All right.
Musashi. But there are many samurai stories where someone has like a cursed sword or like the strongest sword that's the only sword that can kill demons or whatever, and it's a Masamune sword. There's two famous Japanese smiths, Masamune, and I forget the other one's name. So I just took the name of one of them and said I'll bring him because I bring in if I can bring in the Hulk.
Looks an awful lot like Tulin, which that's weird, but kind of like Rohan. He's kind of like, man, making these weapons, it's kind of whack. I don't want to do that no more.
I don't want to crack the earth open.
Yeah, and Rohan's like, you know what? I get it. I understand where you're coming from, man. It's a tough world. It's a tough universe out there.
Yeah.
And he's all like, you don't know how old I am. And he's like, bro, I served in the Ildrock army for like 10 years. All right, I get it. Like, you got to do some bad things sometimes.
Yeah.
But he's also, I thought it was interesting seeing them two they're kind of foils in a weird way. Where they're both kind of trying to turn a new leaf after, doing some things that are morally questionable.
Yeah. I think that's a theme I revisit a lot. I don't know why, but I like it.
Yeah, so he's like, could you make something? Like, could you make something for the sharks? And he's like, no, I've tried. I think he even says,
Here's a cape.
What?
But here's a cape.
Oh, yeah, here's a cape. Take it. Go nuts. That's right.
I love that cape, the frictionless cape.
And Rohan's like, all right. He did not take Edna Mode's advice about capes, unfortunately. Luckily, it doesn't cause him any hassle, so that's good.
No, I was tempted to use that cape more as the series went on, but I never really did. I got to bring it back one of these days.
He also, despite Bright Angel's very strong reservations, he goes back to his old skullduggery ways and makes a deal with some white supremacists.
So this is one of the changes I made in the new version. Is people the problem with the white supremacists, the Proud Guys, which I love. I love that name.
Yeah, that's right. The Proud.
I think it's hilarious. I still love it, but
it was so fun.
Many people complain, I think rightfully, that it pulled them out of the story because it was too close to modern day politics to real.
Yeah, it was a bit on the, but that's why I thought it was funny, is because it was a bit on the nose. But it was just like,
and it took me like 3 years, but finally, I'm like, you know what, you're right, because book one doesn't really do that.
Call them the
book
good
one
boys?
Doesn't have, huh?
Did you call them the good boys in the new one?
No. I just made them like a bunch of like mobbed up superheroes from New York.
Oh,
and
okay.
The collectors, I think I call them the collectors. So there's no real political thing. They're just basically like a guy who ran like each different neighborhood in New York City, and they all. So one guy's name is Midtown, one guy's name is the Bronx, one guy's name is like Jersey or something, and it's slightly Sopranos-ish. But they serve the same purpose in the story, right? They're bad guys. They're like their old enemies from back when. Rohan like recruits them to help slow down the shark, and Bright Angel's super pissed at him, which is the story arc for those characters, right? That's all that's the only function they serve.
Oh, okay.
Is like this sort of mistake, right? So it's just they do the same thing with these other guys.
I mean, I don't know if Proud Guys was as great or as glorious as the Green, but I had me a laugh. So there you go.
Proud Guys and the Make Earth Great Again hats.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah, I was just like, all right, you're laying a little thick on that, but okay, whatever.
It was too thick. I took it out. I had protesters, but they were much more generic.
But they're like, it's like, hey, if you want to be like racist jerks, you can help us so you can remain racist jerks. And they're like, I can't argue with that logic there. I think they even have a fight briefly. Like the
Yeah.
main guy has superpowers and is like, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah," kicks the crap out of Rohan.
Yeah.
Which
It's
Rohan
the
gets his ass beaten a lot in these 3 books that I've read. I'm just like, good. Well, is it just him holding back, or is he just one of those like Fox Mulder? He just gets his ass handed to him a lot. Or
you'll
both.
know the answer to that better as you read more, but a lot of it is him holding back.
Oh well.
Because don't forget, the part of the thing is like if he really doesn't hold back, he can go berserk and end up murdering 2,000 people, which is what we saw in book 1.
Yeah. Probably
So
don't want that to happen.
he's keenly aware of that. He can take a beating. He's tough. He's gonna heal, right? He doesn't heal like a normal person.
And, he doesn't have nothing to prove. He's not like
He's got nothing to prove, and that's something that
he's not a showboater.
he's not because he. So okay, so I have a martial arts background. I've known a lot of. I'm not a very tough guy, but I've known some really tough people.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if you're a kind of guy, you walk into a room and you're like, you could just like dismember everyone in the room with your bare hands. Because I've known people like that. I've hung out with them. Those people aren't going around bullying people. Right? They're not like picking fights because there's nothing to prove.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When you hang out with those people, they're very calm. They're very gentle. They're not aggressive because like, why? What's the point? Like they know they could kill you with like 2 fingers. They're not interested in trying to show you that they could because they know it. You know, even if you argue them, they just be like, yeah, whatever, dude, just like step back. Right? So that to me is Rohan. Rohan kind of feels like he could kill everyone in the room all the time. He's got nothing to prove.
Which is why they're wary of him, of course, because they're like,
yeah,
we don't want to anger him.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to lose control and end up murdering a bunch of people because, the whole point about like the beginning of Wistful Ascending is like he sort of hit that, he sort of bottomed out. He's like, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to wake up in a pile of bodies anymore. So I'm going to try to not do that. Cut back on the murder. Cut back on the murder. I should have called the series Cut Back on the Murder. Instead of Hybrid Helix. That's the real theme.
Yeah, it's just like
the murder diet.
The
right?
murder diet. Oh, jeez. Yeah, it's hard though, because like there's a couple fights he has where he's like, oh my gosh, he fights some vampires actually. He fights some like mole vampire people. I think
with tentacles.
Yeah, with tentacles. I think it's like I think which is kind of funny. It leads into book 3 a little bit because there's a vampire in that one as well. But
I like vampires as bad guys because there's nothing more like concrete than these guys see you as food.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like in terms of like this is a conflict. Like if you to be happy need to eat me, we're not going to be okay. Right? We're going to be. This is a problem. This is like a built-in conflict. So I like them as bad guys. So I use them a lot. I mean, even the things that want to eat you. That just seems fair, right?
I think that's one of the moments when is it Atlantis where Rohan hulks out, or is it with the vampires where he hulks out?
He hulks out a little bit with the vampires, but then Bright Angel really hulks out with the vampires.
Oh yeah.
And he doesn't really lose control completely in this book.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't really lose control completely in book 3. So I had this idea at one point that maybe I could write this series in a much more formulaic way, where like something bad happens and around the 3/4 mark, he completely loses his temper, kills a bunch of people, and then he has to try to make up for it in the final act. And I was like, that's just too predictable. I don't want to do that. So I didn't. So he loses his temper other times in the series, but it's not like every book he goes crazy and slaughters a continent full of people. That it happens, but not all the time.
Yeah, but he beats up some vampires. He beats up some Atlanteans, and he rescues Poseidon, who is just absolutely wrecked. I think after fighting a shark, or I think the Atlanteans tortured him, or maybe a little bit of both.
The Atlanteans tortured him. He didn't fight any sharks. He didn't get a chance to.
They kidnapped
him and tortured him. They kidnapped him, and the poor guy just having a rough time. He fights a shark at the end, but he had not fought any before.
And then they're like, oh man, did you hear about Ares? He's like, oh yeah, bummer. And then he just kind of gets gets plastered. He just gets drunk.
I don't know. Yeah, Poseidon is like a party boy. Was always
He's like,
seemed like a fun way to play him.
he's like, yeah, he was a good guy. Yeah, and then he just kind of gets drunk. I think it's actually him who figures it out. Like, I think there's something wrong with the sharks, and then Rohan's like, aha! He gets his like eureka moment.
No, it's because Kid Lightning finds the thing.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
You kill the shark, and Kid Lightning's like pounding on this corpse, which I always imagine, like just totally lost his
Him
cool.
just slapping
Pounding on the corpse, slamming, Kid Lightning slamming it, sparks flying, chunks of meat going everywhere.
It's like, yeah, guys, I think Kid Lightning's onto something.
And he finds like Kid Lightning,
and then he finds like the device and
the control box.
And then Rohan, of course, he's like, we gotta save these sharks. And again, everyone's like, did something happen while you were at Eldrock or something? Like, what's wrong with you? And he's like, look, they didn't ask for this. We gotta figure out who's doing this and get them to knock it off. And then they're like, and then we're done. And of course, everyone else is like, Rohan, that's a stupid idea. We gotta annihilate these sharks. He's like, well, we gotta try at least. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So
that's the arc, right? That's the try. He's for him, it's more important to be compassionate because he doesn't want to live as that guy who murders everything anymore. Mm-hmm. He literally, at this beginning of the first book, he's like, I almost think I deserve to die here. That's the first page 2 of Wistful Ascending. He's saying that. Like that's where he was, and now he's like, well, if I want to live a life where I feel like it's worth living, I've got to be nicer to. I've got to try to do better. So he's always trying to do better. That's his
it's kind of towards the end when he gets kidnapped and tortured. I'm like, oh yeah, it kind of turns into BoJack Horseman for a little bit because he's all like, I'm just trying to do better, bro. And he's like, what? And Dr. Kraken is the main villain, who I just imagine is like a guy with like a Cthulhu head just running around and.
He's a guy with a Cthulhu head, but he's not a human. He's an alien.
No, he's an octopus person. Yeah. It's called like a centropoid or something.
Cephalopod. Octopus species. Yeah. I love Dr. Kraken. No one else does. I don't think anyone else loves him as much as I do. But he's he's a mustache twirling villain.
He's kind of viewed as a joke by the other superheroes. It's like I think there's even a conversation where like, really, Dr. Kraken? No, like that. No, come on.
Yeah.
I think it's Bright Angel who says it. Like, no, like come on, like Dr. Kraken, nah, like we.
Well, the idea is that he's been this villain that Hyperion fought, and other people have fought for dozens or hundreds of years, and he pops up again, and but he's really the mustache twirler, humans are the inferior species, and he's like the James Bond villain. He's like the class.
No, Rohan, I expect to torture you to death. Yeah.
And I expect to enjoy every minute of it. And he's throwing a tentacle.
He's it's that kind of character.
I mean, I wouldn't want a whole book about him because he'd be kind of, it would get old really fast. But having him in there for little bits, I really enjoy.
Yeah, because isn't he in jail or something? Like him and Sister Steel collaborate in the book, if I remember right.
She's working for him. She snatches Rowan out of jail with the other guy who can shadow walk. They pull Rowan out of jail to kidnap him so Dr. Kraken can torture him, and that's how the book winds up. It's like a double ending, right? First they defeat the sharks, but then Rowan gets kidnapped by Dr. Kraken and gets saved by his girlfriend. Mm-hmm. Through no act of his own. He had nothing to do with it. He's just being tortured. It's like, no, I'm fucked. This isn't good. And he says he's sorry to Garen.
Should I get angry now? No, I'm kidding. He doesn't.
Yeah,
he doesn't do
he can. They have him drugged up, and he says he's
that's right.
Sorry to Garen. And then Garen's like, you know what? I believe you. I believe that you're sorry. I'm going to get you out of here.
Sister Steel even's like, I can't even believe you. You have the temerity to come back to Earth. And he's all like, first of all, your brother was robbing a bank. I'm sorry that happened. Like, really?
Yeah.
But, what do you want me to say? you know, it's kind of like when you see those like police brutality cases and they're like, look, the guy was resisting. What do you want me to do? Which I hate to say, I'm probably going to anger some people with that, but and there are, I probably shouldn't have said that.
No, but I mean, the point isn't that he was doing the right thing or that it was okay, but maybe he needed to pay for that on some level for what he did, and he does pay for it and make some compensation, and they let him get off of time served. Like, you were tortured for a while, we'll count that as your punishment.
Yeah, I don't know if Sister Steel forgives him, but she's just kind of like,
She basically does.
Yeah,
she basically does. He shouldn't die for this. She feels, because I look, and this is my philosophy coming through, right? This is why I write, is so I can make these points. I do think that there's something about a sincere apology and saying I'm willing to take some punishment and I'm genuinely sorry, and then that's it. At some point, you can say, like, I did a bad thing. I'm really sorry. I will try really hard not to do it again, and that's all I got. And that's where Rohan is in this. And at the end, for a lot of this book, he's like, yeah, you got me, right?
Yeah,
I was wrong.
So Rohan's under a lot of stress, to put it in other words. He's just like, oh man, like, not only am I dealing with this awkward family drama and these gigantic mega sharks, but now Sister Steel is basically, for lack of a better word, pulling a Me Too on him without even, he didn't do anything like weird or perverted, but he did break a guy's spine. So, and caused him to kill himself, and I mean, that's not okay. But at first Rohan's like, look, bro was robbing a bank. I'm not proud of what I did, but like, what do you want me to do? And then later on he's like, you know what? I kind of I feel bad, I'm sorry. I'm trying to do better. And she's like, okay, fine. We're fine. I'm still mad at you, but we're fine.
People need that. People need some closure. People need to hear that. Sometimes and she knows, like, you can't. What's he gonna do? He can't bring back her brother. He can't, turn back time.
Mm-hmm.
Amber maybe could, but he can't.
Oh yeah, there's the time travel lady, and he's like, can we like time travel? And she's like, I can't do that. I'm sorry. Like, I can speed things up and slow things down. I can't.
Yeah, I am not going to have like full-blown travel back and forth in time in this series. I find that plotting becomes impossible.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if you really try to be consistent and you have like real time travel, like Doctor Who style time travel, you can never tell a story. Right? Because anything big happens, there should be a bazillion time travelers going back, and like before the first sharks showed up, there should have been like the shore, right?
Or it just turns into like Primer or that Rick and Morty episode where they keep sending those serpents back to kill each other. Yeah.
It just like the beach would have been like lined with like superheroes from the future there to stop. And like, you can't tell a story like that.
It just gets so complicated.
There is limited time travel. You can send information back in time, and it has significant consequences, and that has not been spelled out in the series. I will probably get to that much later. They reference it because Amber and Spiral are from a different timeline, but I don't explain it. That was because I wrote that book first. I wrote part of a book. I plotted a book where Amber and Spiral coming from their other timeline and how it all plays out, and that's where the Sons of Atlantis and the Children of Mu, that all came from. And that was a book I wrote before I wrote any of this Hybrid Helix. So this character been pulling in from another story.
I guess a more appropriate comparison would again kind of be those like BLM, police brutality thing. Like Rodney, he gets Rodney King'd, if you will, if you really want to go back in the day.
More like that than like Me Too. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because Rohan didn't do anything like sexual,
right?
As far as I know.
Right. No.
Maybe you'll pull that in another book. I don't.
No.
Probably not. But
there is no sexual assault in my world. It just doesn't exist. I'm not going to explain it. I'm just not going to have it. Period.
Fair enough.
I don't want to write about it. So I'm just going to say it never happens, and I'm not going to say why. I'm not going to give a reason. I'm just going to, just like, most people write books where nobody like poops, right? Like, Never happens on the page, right? This is the same thing. It's never going to happen. The
Yeah,
dog will always live. If a kid has a name, he'll be fine, or she will be fine.
if
I
they're
was just talking about
nameless,
this on
if
a
they're
Discord.
nameless, just fuck those kids.
Well, here's the thing. I was on a Discord. We were talking about like some grimdark story where like these horrible things were happening, and I was like, not in my books, right? But I'm like, but like I killed plenty of kids, like in this book, right? Like millions of people died when the sharks attacked like
Or
Asia.
bears, or Russian
Yeah, yeah.
bears, if
But,
possible.
but but so there must have been plenty of kids dying, but no one whose name you knew, right? No one who's like got a fate. It's not happening on the page. I'm like, oh, the people have to settle for that.
I mean, I'm not demanding for rape in your books. You know,
Thank you. It's not going to happen.
Don't do it.
It's not going to happen.
If you don't want to do it, which I mean,
No,
this
no
sounds
one's going to
really
have that.
weird, but
I will not have the Red Sonja character who was raped by demons in her backstory. That will never be a character in my series.
Okay. I'm glad
Or
we
whatever.
we've cleared that up.
Yes. Yeah, and the dog will always live.
You know the thing I am sad about, which maybe it's in future books. There's no Crypto the super dog. You're not saying Rohan had a little superpowered dog running around?
There's a superpowered dog in Partial Function.
Oh, there is. I'll have to read Partial Function then.
There are, yeah. I had a lot of fun with Partial Function. There's a dog named Dog, and he is one of the very popular characters from that book. Many people have loved Dog because I modeled him after my daughter's dog, who's incredibly dumb, just incredibly dumb and useless. And so I gave this like action hero a dog who's completely useless.
He's the moral support.
He's just sweet and dumb and just goes around and they'll have a fight and he'll be off like humping a tree stump or something, and that's all he ever does. He never like barks and saves them. He's like the opposite of Lassie, I guess. Isn't it? Like Jimmy's in the well. He's like, what? I don't care. He's gonna eat something. So I put a dog in Partial Function. So a lot of people enjoy. I had a lot of fun writing that dog, but I didn't give Rohan a pet. I kind of give him a pet in book 6.
I guess top 3. Those are kind of like pets in a weird way. That he'll fight
6.
from time to time.
Yeah, they're not cuddly though.
No, they're more like super dangerous kaiju.
But they were the secret to the victory in this book, right? For beginning of the book, he's saving people from the decipedes, and at the end, that's the decipede venom is what he needs to save the sharks.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
ties everything together.
Yeah,
like a little.
He's like,
like
oh yeah,
stuff.
hey, stones. Don't they have like venom we can use for these things? And they're like, oh yeah, and that's how it happens.
Yep.
And then it turns out that no, it was Dr. Kraken the whole time, and he's like, doing his hammy supervillain monologue, and
well, he was around taking advantage of the situation. I don't think it's meant to be that he caused the whole thing.
Wait, I thought he was controlling the sharks.
He was not controlling the sharks.
He was not controlling the sharks.
No. The sharks just had the thing in their head that made them angry. Like a thorn in your paw, right? Dr. Kraken was not controlling the sharks. He's not that high up on the food chain. He was controlling the vampires.
Doing? I thought that was a big... I'm kind of shocked now.
I'm sorry. He was controlling the vampires.
Oh, okay.
They were just cleaning up after the sharks. They were just like killing people...
I'm bamboozled now because I thought that was the big twist, that he was the man controlling the sharks.
No. He was part of the plot. He was part of it, right? It's his gods that were involved. But yeah,
I'm
sorry.
Back now.
Gotta reread it now.
Oh damn it! I should have. No, but So we don't know where the sharks came from. Just that.
Exactly.
We do kind of know where the sharks come from because they do explain like life started on Earth and in the ocean, and that's where the sharks came from. But aside from that, we don't know where these sharks came from.
Right, they came from some place with a lot of water. Because all the oceans are connected, right? All the oceans are connected. Like the cephalopod sorcerers can connect any body of water to any other body of water through like underwater like portals. So all the oceans of the universe or of the galaxy are like one big ecosystem, where you can go from one to the other. So they're from one of these other worlds, and I don't think I ever say. No, I definitely don't say in the book. They never find out. They don't have they can't. But But the sharks are gone for now. So, good enough.
But we also learned that Dr. Kraken worships, for lack of a better word, these beings called the Great Old Ones. And I'm like, oh, so we're getting some Lovecraftian elements in this series. Okay. Which becomes a big part of book 3, by the way.
And later books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh man, like if you thought the sharks were a big deal, the Great Old Ones, everyone's like, oh shit, like that's messed up.
And it's fun because someone's like, "What's your series about?" Well, it's about a retired like weapon of mass destruction who has to face a galaxy filled with like planet-sized vampiric cephalopods. And I was like, "Okay, that's not like every other book I've read this year. You know, it's a little different.
Yeah.
Little different." So.
Yeah. Though we also get the running gag where they're all like, "You Yankees, you have no sophistication whatsoever," and Johan's like, and not Johan, Rohan's like, "Bro, I'm Canadian. What are you talking about?" Like everyone assumes I'm American. I'm Canadian. Like
I'm Canadian. Yeah, yeah. I get a lot of mileage out of that. I think I just put that in there originally because someone was like, "You're very polite," and you're like, "Of course, I'm Canadian." I think it was like a one-off joke.
Actually, if I remember.
And once you make the joke, you got to stick with it. So now, and then I do end up having Canadian readers who are like super excited, like, "You've got Canadian representation in your book." I'm like, "I guess, yeah, I do."
I mean, who's the most iconic Canadian superhero? Well, Wolverine, but
Wolverine. I'm a big fan of. I was a big fan of Vindicator.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Alpha Flight.
I was a big fan of Alpha Flight. I got Alpha Flight. Like I was on board with that comic from the start when John Byrne wrote like issue 1, Sasquatch, Puck. I think North Star, the Speedster, was his name North Star.
I don't know. I'm not as familiar with Alpha Flight.
Okay, I have all those originals somewhere in a box, but I did like that comic quite a bit. So I was a fan of the Canadian superhero.
Yeah, but now we got Rohan, so
now we got Rohan. yeah. I've had a few Canadian reviewers and stuff like send me little DMs like, "Oh my god, he's Canadian." It's cute, it's just a thing. It doesn't,
Yeah, but someone, I swear it's in this book, or maybe it was last book. I don't remember. But someone's like, "You Yankees, you have no finesse. You're always running around blowing shit up." And he's like, "Bro, I'm Canadian. What are you talking about?"
Oh, me. Yeah. I'm Canadian.
So wait, is Bright Angel also Canadian?
No, he moved to New York. So he and the rest of the superhero team were in New York. She's from Baltimore. I think I say that like once.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I say it because I worked in Baltimore for 10 years. So she's vaguely patterned after people I knew in Baltimore. But he had moved to New York to like do the superhero thing.
I was really, oh man, there wasn't any wire jokes. I'm like, oh man, I bet David Simon in that universe, he's just resting easy. He's like, my hard work paid off. I don't have to worry about nothing ever again.
Yeah. I don't know.
No, but back on topic though. But yeah, they throw down with the sharks. They end up figuring out what's going on with the sharks. I just learned that we don't know where the sharks came from.
Exactly. Well, we know that there are I like the proxy war concept, right? Like the remnants of these old fish civilizations are still at war with each other and not really happy about the humanoids. So it's a little tension in the galaxy. Got to set everything up with kind of broad strokes.
Yeah, but no. So the Great Old Ones are kind of up and about, and I'm like, all right, so we got some Lovecraftian stuff going on. Okay, all right, I see what you're doing.
Yeah. If you want to, that's the thing. When you have a superhero, like if your superhero is fighting crooked, mobsters or something, it's like at some point, it's too easy. When Superman's fighting like a mobster, right? Like you gotta give him like a dark seed. You gotta give him something.
Give him like a dark side or Brainiac to.
You gotta give someone meaty, So like if you're like Rowan, like how do I make it not seem like it's too easy? Well, you give him like kaiju and ancient, and Cthulhu. Now you're not just gonna go and punch Cthulhu in the face and have like
Yeah,
a
which
huge
is kind of
picture.
funny because like I was reading some of the plot and I'm like, this is Mass Effect 2. This is turning into Mass Effect 2.
Is it?
A little bit,
Yeah.
where everyone's gathering together to stop the big threat. That's more in book 3. But so it's like
I never played Mass Effect, so I don't know. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just
then you have no friggin' clue what I'm talking about. This is wonderful.
no clue. But that's a pretty standard. That's the Avengers. That's the Defenders.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a lot of things, right? That's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right? The Scooby Gang. She gets like all her friends, and one's a witch, and one's just a doofus, but he's got a library card, and one's
He's got a library card.
what I don't know, whatever Xander was good for. But that's
Aside from
it's a
being
common
like
thing.
Joss Whedon's stand-in.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the. I mean, look, you say what you want about who Joss Whedon is as a person. I don't want to get into that, but I'm a big fan of those. A lot of the stuff he did with. I didn't like what he did with Avengers, but I really like what he did with Buffy. I thought that was a really good show. And yeah, I'm definitely copying elements of that. You
Yeah,
get the
yeah.
gang together to fight the big bad, and it's like
So it's like, yeah, we go from like Deep Space Nine to like the Avengers, or
Yeah.
the Justice League, or whatever super team you want to think up of.
Yeah. We're back on Deep Space Nine in book 3.
What?
We're back on Deep Space Nine in book 3.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. We're on the Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. All the people complaining, I miss Wei Li, which I can hear so much. I'm like, all right, she's back. She's in book 3. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Wistful.
So he defeats Dr. Kraken, for lack of a better word.
He does not.
Or, well, actually, no, he doesn't. Bright Angel
Bright
does.
Angel enlists dude.
So,
Bright
kind
Angel
of a
enlists.
gender flip of the damsel in distress. He's the one who gets captured, and she just runs in and just wrecks everybody.
Wrecks everybody.
He also convinces the guy he fought last book to... He basically apologizes to him for wiping out his world.
Iron Squid.
And Iron Squid is like, okay, I'll let you go. You seem sincere. Which I'm just like, I think that would go a lot worse in real life, but you know what? I'll go with it. I'll take the Deus Ex Machina where I can take it.
Yeah.
And Bright Angel just busts in and just wrecks everybody.
Enlist.
And
my Doctor Who analog.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
She just takes out everybody. Everyone just takes out everybody. And then
once they're all there.
And then Rohan recovers. He's like, oh, man. So are they gone? And they're like, yeah. And then they do what most people do after a world-altering situation. They bang furiously.
Oh.
And
a
then,
lot of tension to work out.
And then they have like a really heartfelt moment, and they're like, "Oh man, this is nice. You know what? I kind of missed you, Rohan." Maybe it's Rohan who says first, like, "You know what? I kind of missed you."
Yeah.
And then she's like, "You know what? I missed you too, but I got a thing going here on Earth." And he's like, "All right, fair enough. I had to try."
Yeah, I feel like I trapped myself, right? If things had worked out with them, she would have come back with him. Then all of a sudden, it's Rohan. It's like a team. She's too powerful to have like as his sidekick. Like I don't want that dynamic. It's better to lead her somewhere else where she can be off doing her own adventures, which I'll never write about, but we can imagine she's having her own adventures.
They have like this real heartfelt moment. They drink like tequila, having some good fashion, heart to heart. And then he kind of patches things up with his mom, I guess, for lack of a better word. She gives him the old, just call my ass. Like, here's my phone number. And he's like, look, man, Wistful's far away. And she's like, hey, you'll make do. It's an AI. Yeah. He's like, all right, fine. And they, she's like, call, keep in touch. Yeah. Which kind of made me mad in book 3. I'm like, there's no reference to him talking to his mom. This guy's an asshole. Or maybe he did it off screen. I don't know. I mean,
there's 6 months in between books. So you have to assume stuff's happening in between books that's just not worth putting in a story.
Yeah, which, that brings me to like book 3 where I was just like, I text you. I'm like, he has a bar now, and you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a short story. Sorry, yeah, you don't have to read it. I'm like, oh, okay, because I don't remember any of that in Return of the Griffin.
No. Well, stuff happens between all the books, like, and sometimes it bothers readers. And I'm like, I mean, I don't want to. The books aren't back to back. They say it's 6 months later, pretty much in every book.
Well, I'm just hoping when I get to the Shadow of Hyperion, he didn't like nuke a planet in the meantime. Well,
No, but there's a big fight that happens between books 5 and 6 that aggravated some people. That it was off. It was off page. So when book 6 starts, it's like the effects are being felt, but you don't know what happened, and it's revealed as the book goes on. And that's, I like the storytelling technique. Not every reader's going to love it. It's life.
Rohan, on his journey to try to cut back on murdering people, mostly succeeds, I think.
There's very little murdering in this. They kill two sharks.
I mean, they want him to murder the sharks. They're like, hey, Rohan, we might need you to stomp on these sharks, like a little bit, like not all of them, but maybe most of them.
They kill 2.
They do kill 2, yes.
They kill 2. They kill. I mean, the sharks were killing a lot of other people. It's not unwarranted, but they kill 2. Who else?
Yeah, but I do think it's kind of funny when Rohan's like, no, they're misunderstood, and everyone's like, Rohan, you're freaking crazy. Get out of here.
You lost your shit, man. Yeah.
I'm like, they are murdering a lot of people. And it's like, look, they probably don't even want to murder all these people. And they're like, Rohan, you're killing me. You're killing me. They even like, again, I'm trying not to cut into book 3 here, but they're like, Rohan, look, I get you're trying to turn a new leaf, but sometimes you just got to stomp some people down. Sometimes you got to stomp on some necks, as my friend.
But he's right. In book 2, this is the most effective thing, probably.
Though luckily this time they figure it out and save the sharks.
They figure it out. I mean, he's trying, and that was a big part of what the series is about.
Yeah, like the theme really set in. I'm like, wow, I was not really expecting that in this. Getting all, I don't know if I'd say emotional. A little bit. Because Rohan's like, well, trying to do better. Sorry, Dr. Kraken. And Dr. Kraken's like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm torturing you. He's like, I'm trying to do better. Okay, just go with it. And then, that's when Bright Angel shows up. She's like, oh, yeah? Well, if you won't kick his ass, I'm going to do it, Gets arrested, put back in jail. And everyone's like, oh, thank God. We were kind of worried there for a minute that things were going to go bad. I imagine it would have been even more awkward if we moved everyone on Earth to Wistful or something. And Rohan's like, yes, that's probably right. They don't actually say that. I made that up. Though that probably should have been in there. 0 out of 5, Joe. This book was terrible. Didn't have that conversation. I'm kidding. But
I think they basically established that they just don't have enough ships to come anywhere close to like getting billions of people off the Earth.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that now.
There's just not enough ships. I mean, in a short period of time.
Oh yeah, they do explain that.
And then and there's definitely not enough room on Wistful for like 8 billion people. Like that's not going to happen.
I know. I was kidding when I said that.
I know, but I was thinking about it. Like I mean, they were at one point talking about evacuating, but you can't evacuate the planet. You can save some people, which luckily they didn't have to do. But this same idea comes back later in book 5 about at what point do you have to evacuate a population and what that costs and what it looks like. But not in book 2.
But yeah, so Earth is saved. Rohan.
And we've all learned a valuable lesson about saying yourself.
Apologized.
There you go.
He learned a little bit, I guess. He realized that, I can't keep running from the past, but I can do better. Which again, kind of straight out of BoJack Horseman, though it's not as bleak, fortunately.
I still have not seen that. Maybe one of these days. Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe Rick and Morty. I don't know. It's been a while since I've watched Rick and Morty.
I've never seen that either.
Oh my God. You're killing me, Joe.
I'm sorry. I have watched some cartoons, but not as many as a lot of other people. for whatever reason. I watch a lot of anime, but only certain kinds. I don't know.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking Rohan's like Spike Spiegel, but I'm like, well, Spike Spiegel's lazier than Rohan is, and also I don't know if Spike Spiegel's particularly sorry about his past. He has to face the past, but I don't know if he's really sorry about it.
That's Spike is what is that? Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, Cowboy Bebop.
I have not watched that in a very long time.
Oh, I was about to say you haven't watched it. Oh my god!
No. I saw it. I don't love it like other people do. People really love that show, and I'm not one of them. I think of him as more like similar to Rurouni Kenshin, which I did watch all of, and a few others. The Retired Gunslinger. I mean, that's a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not. I didn't invent that, trope. Far from it. But yeah, that was Return of the Griffin. A much more straightforward story than book one.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of. Well, there wasn't a lot of that slice of life stuff, which makes sense because it's there's giant sharks running around. It's not really a lot of time to chill out and get drunk and eat breakfast at the.
They have a party at the end after killing.
Oh yeah, they do have a party. Yeah,
they have a good party. I like that party, and not a lot of no, and they eat a lot of pizza.
There was some banging that happened afterwards.
There was some banging off page.
Off page banging, but it happened.
Closed door banging. I don't write the special edition. We're gonna have all the banging. The insert with the full. When I launch my Kickstarter, we're gonna have with drawings with art panels on the inside, and I'm gonna get a guest writer to fully outline, fully flesh out the banging. Next bonus chapter in the book. So watch out for the Kickstarter. Watch out for the Kickstarter. Yeah, all 3 books with all the banging made very explicit.
I like Return of the Griffin though.
Thank you.
I know not everyone loved Return of the Griffin.
It's the least liked book overall.
Well, that's
which I understand.
But I like Return of the Griffin. So
yeah,
there you go.
I mean, the big thing I was trying to accomplish, which I definitely did, is I made it clear that I wasn't going to just do Wistful Ascending over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that was my thing, right? I didn't want to make it seem like I was just going to rehash the first, because you could have just had, something comes to the station through another wormhole. Rowan has to, figure out, and, you could have had a very similar plot structure for every book. And I think there are definitely people who would have liked that more, but I was like, I'm going to make it very clear that that's not what you get.
Yeah, have a bunch of, instead of Russian bears, it's like Hispanic chinchillas this time. I don't know.
Yeah, right. You could have. And I might have sold more books if I'd done that. I don't know, right? But, I didn't want to write a series.
I'm so sorry, audience.
No. That's actually, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, he'll just nab that, and I'll just read that later in one of the later books. Be like, oh my god, Joe, I was kidding. You did not need to do that.
I'll make a novella about the Spanish chinchillas that come through Wormhole 4. But, yeah, but I mean, it's a risk because, when you don't give people the thing they liked in book 1 and book 2, then you turn off some readers, and that's just, that's life. So.
I dug it.
Thank you.
And I thought it was pretty fun to see Rohan actually, kind of grow a little bit as a character, if you will. Because, in the first one, he's kind of not really my style, try not to do that no more. But, in this one, he gets kind of confronted with the past, and he's like, oh, I might need to apologize to some people. Which, again, kind of like the last book, that ended a lot better than I thought it would, and it probably would in real life. But you know what? That's what fiction's for. Fiction isn't real life.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty, right? He screws up in every book, but he fixes it in every book. And that's not how real life works.
But tries.
That's okay. Yeah. Because, in real life, you screw up regularly, but you can't always fix it. But he generally does, because if I'm going to write a book, I might as well write it where his efforts pay off, because...
I think that's it, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
All
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you liked it, Brendan. It was very fun to go over it.
Hopefully, it won't take so long to do Blood Reunion.
Say
Cross my
when.
fingers. And also, we're gonna do that Invincible chat. It's the last freaking thing I do. I'm gonna get Tig. I'm gonna get
I
you.
reread the whole series so we could do
gonna-
that, and
we're
now
gonna-
it's been another
we're gonna-
whole season of the cartoon.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it, and we're gonna like it.
I really like that show,
Ugh.
and the comic and the show. I haven't watched season 3 because I'm drafting. I don't have time. So when I finish this draft, that's my reward waiting for me at the end of this book. As soon as I finish it, I'm going to go watch Invincible season 3.
But yes,
I heard it's great. I've heard only good things.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah. Have you seen it?
Oh yeah. We finally get the big fight of one of the big fights. So I won't say, but you can probably imagine what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, but that's about it for Return of the Griffin.
Yeah.
Joe,
Bro.
if you have any social media and all that, feel free to share it with the masses.
Go to jcmberne.com. You can find everything from there. I'm still on Twitter, Joe Byrne 1, and I'm on Blue Sky. I think it's JCM Berne on Blue Sky. Is it? You don't know. JCM Berne, Blue Sky Social, and then and you can find me on Discord and Facebook. I spend too much time on social media. That's the bottom line.
Yes, I do see you. I do see your witticisms on Twitter from time to time.
Yeah, I backed off from Twitter. A lot of people that I like on Twitter left Twitter. So I spend less time there and more on Blue Sky. But what are you going to do? There's still a lot of people on Twitter. So I try to go where the people are.
Fair enough. I'm starting to use Blue Sky more myself. I'm getting kind of sick of Twitter. I didn't really want to do one of those big celebrity I'm leaving Twitter. I don't want to do that because one, I'm just a stubborn asshole, but also on the other, I really don't think I'm that important in the grand scheme of things. Like who will care? But there are times I'm like, man, I'm getting fucking tired of Twitter because every time I log on, it just seems like someone's shitting on something that's I'm fucking tired of Twitter. I'm getting tired of Twitter, to be honest with you.
The tone shifted because a lot of the people who refuse to ever shit on things are the same people who left. Right. So it's just numerically, you just have the people who are not engaging in that behavior. Not that everyone who's still on Twitter engages in that behavior. It's just statistically more of them are left. So I don't know. It is what it is. It is what it is.
It's yeah. I don't want because I get so irritated, Joe. I get so irritated with those I'm leaving Twitter. Take that, Musk. Even though Elon Musk is just rolling in dough right now. He is laughing all the way to the bank. He does not care if you leave Twitter.
He doesn't care if you leave Twitter.
He's probably actually amused that you're leaving Twitter because now he's like, aha, I have chased the snowflakes away or some bullshit like that. But anyway, my main point is I'm getting tired of Twitter, but at the same time I really don't want to do one of those I'm leaving Twitter. Also, I have a lot of history on that Twitter, so I'm kind of attached to that account. A little bit.
Yeah, I don't see myself canceling my account anytime soon. But again, I spend less time on it than I used to.
Fair enough. Anyway, I'm hungry. I need to get dinner.
Oh wow! Yeah, go eat.
But
Joe, all right, man. Thanks very much.
Thank you. And hopefully we'll be back for Blood Reunion.
Sounds
hopefully
good, man.
Sooner than later. So yeah. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen.